Okay. Hi. Well, come back to me. Hi, my name is Tammy. I have a couple adventures on Facebook, a couple adventures on .com on web. Today we're doing a hashtag Creative Innovators interview with Jessica Mack of Brown Paper Bunny. I love that handle. It's so awesome. Jess, if you would, tell us something about yourself. Tell us, who you are, what you do, all that good stuff, and we'll get into this.
Hi, I'm Jess. I'm Australian originally, but I live in Colorado now. And I'm a social media coach and an artist and fashion illustrator. And I work mostly in watercolor and ink. And yeah, that's my intro, I guess.
So how long have you been doing your artwork?
Not really that long. All my life I wanted to learn to draw and paint, and I just didn't know where to get started, and it seemed like a really challenging thing, not something I thought I'd be good at. So I put it off for a long time. And then, it was only really a few years ago that I took my first art class and then was just completely hooked. From then, the rest is history.
So what's your favorite creative outlet? Because you said you do fashion illustration, and watercolor. Do you do the watercolor as part of your illustrations?
Yeah, I do. Usually I'll do fashion illustrations in either ink or watercolor paints. I dabble a little bit in acrylic and abstracts, but more illustrative style. And I guess I've got a lot of creative outlets, though. I've always been really into a lot of different dance forms, from classical ballet to tap dancing to Bollywood, you name it, I've done it. And I do a lot of photography as well.
And I was just going to ask you, what else you've tried. What made you settle on this? I mean, what attracted you more to this than, say, dance?
It's a good question. I'm not as young as I used to be. I can't dance as well as I used to. I did classical ballet from when I was 3 years old until my mid-20s. And I've got, a knee and a foot injury now, so I can't do that sort of dancing and things like that. But no, look, as soon as I picked up a paintbrush, and particularly when I started playing around with watercolors and how kind of versatile they are, you can do beautiful, soft seascapes, or you can do like bright colored, vibrant, modern paintings. I was just completely hooked. And, I love how portable they are. And, I literally take them everywhere. Like, I should probably just show you guys. When I travel, or even just in my handbag, I have a big handbag, this is what I take with me. And in here, the main thing is this little tin, and it's my handmade watercolor set. And I've got dozens of these that I've made out of Altoid tins and all sorts of stuff. But I love it. It's small. I can take it anywhere, and I do take it anywhere. And, if I've got a few minutes, I'll stop and do a little bit of painting in the sketchbook or whatever. I love it.
I was going to say, I think that's a great idea. I think some of us forget that we can take these things with us. I don't carry a purse, but I always have a sketchbook with me.
Right.
Regardless, I have a pencil and a sketchbook, or I have, a small backpack that I carry my stuff in. So taking it with you so that you're able to do it anywhere, of course, is so much fun. What was your creativity like as a kid? I mean, were you always creative? Is it something that was encouraged as a kid, or is it something that maybe you didn't get into until you were older? I mean, you said you took an art class, a few years ago, but as a kid, what was your creativity like?
I think probably the same as most kids. I'm sure I drew a lot and brought home plenty of finger paintings to be stuck on the fridge, that kind of thing. And I guess I kind of, doodled and drew a little bit here and there, sort of all through school. But I did take art classes in Australia, we call it primary school and then high school. But I actually had some really nasty experiences with some very bad teachers who weren't very nice to me. So I guess that kind of put me off and made me feel like art was not something that I could really do. Which is strange because my father's actually a full-time artist. He works a lot with glass, really intricate glass sculptures and windows and things like that. And my mother is a writer as well. So it's a little bit strange that it took me so long to really discover my creativity.
Yeah, I was just, it's kind of funny because I went through the same sort of experience, with my parents are both very creative, and had a bad experience with a teacher, and then I just shut myself down. And it's kind of frustrating to me as a creative that's what happened. How did you overcome that? How did you decide? I know you said you took an art class, I get that, but what prompted you to say, you know what, I'm not going to listen to what this person said, I'm going to try this anyway?
Well, this one particular teacher, and I won't name names, obviously, even though she's back in Australia, so nobody would probably know her. She actually, I don't know why, she just, I guess, hated her own life, hated her job. And she used to tell me and my friends as teenage girls that we would never amount to anything, and that really nasty stuff. And I guess it was a turning point for me was I was maybe 23 and I'd finished university and I was working in a really good job. And I happened to be like all suited up for a meeting, and I was driving my boss's car, which was super fancy. And I pulled up at these shops to grab some coffee on the way to the meeting. And she was there parked next to me in her old crappy car and like looking, her usual sad self. And I kind of got out and went, oh, hey, like, how you doing? Do you remember me? And kind of rubbed it in her face a little bit that, you know what, I can make anything of my life that I want. And she has no control over that and no say over that. And I know it sounds kind of terrible to be sort of rubbing it in her face that I was doing so well, but it just made me realize, like, I don't have to listen to her or anybody else. I can do what I want. So it just kind of occurred to me, but for some people, I think that's very hard to give themselves permission to say, you know what, I can do what I want.
I agree. I think the whole thing is giving yourself permission. You have to give yourself permission to be able to allow yourself to do these. Some people will say, oh, I can't draw a stick figure. A stick figure is a circle and a couple lines. Anybody can draw it. The thing is that we stop ourselves before we even give ourselves a chance. You're wonderful at the kind of artwork that you do. I don't do artwork the same way. That doesn't mean that neither one of us is artists.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think that has affected your work now, or has it at all? I mean, do you allow those negative experiences to influence your work, or have you moved past that?
No, I think we spoke about this before, but every now and again, you'll get somebody on Instagram or somewhere else who'll come on and sort of trash talk you a little bit. I had a fine art oil painter come on to my Instagram account and comment on a fashion illustration saying, this is crap, that's like not even good. And I looked at his profile and like, who is this guy? Like, never seen him before. And, his bio said that he was a fine artist and a painter, and yet he hadn't shared any of his work on his account at all. And it just occurred to me, maybe he's scared, and so he's kind of lashing out at me. My stuff is not at all realistic or fine art. It's what makes me happy. It's bright colors, it's craziness, it's exaggeration, and I'm totally cool with that. I guess, yeah, anyone that says that they can't draw, I want to encourage them to look at my website and go to my About page, because I have a before self-portrait and then an after self-portrait, having taken one class with a good teacher. So, if you want to learn anything, I think finding the right person to show you how is important, because there's very few people that can just work out how to do something magically by themselves with no instruction. And I really, really couldn't draw. Like my eyes are like this. It's kind of Picasso-esque, and I was trying to do it realistically. So, I definitely encourage people to check that out and see the difference that anybody can make if they practice and have a good teacher, for sure.
Yeah, and I agree. And actually, it's kind of funny because my scope I just talked about, having a support system going. If you want to try a specific art style, having someone that can critique your work in a positive way, not a negative way. Say, oh, it looks terrible, and then not say, well, what's terrible about it? The legs on your horse are disproportionate. Whatever it is, it still teaches you, but you have to have that positive encouragement. A great teacher, a good teacher will help you with that. So it makes all the difference. Jess, what are your sources of inspiration? Where do you find your creativity? When not your creativity, obviously creativity is in you. Sources of inspiration. How do you feel the creative well?
Look, I think I have the problem that there are too many things that I want to try and not enough hours in the day. I know a lot of people have the tendency to get blocked, or it's like, oh, I don't know what to draw now, or paint, or whatever. I tend to have the opposite problem naturally anyway, because I'm very curious and I want to try everything. I'd love to learn how to quilt and how to bake and do all kinds of different art styles and try different mediums all the time. And so I always have too many things going on in my head. But generally, I get inspiration from all kinds of things around me. Social media is a big one. I might see like a technique that somebody's used and it could be like in an oil painting or a horse or something that a subject matter that I never do. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting the way they've done that. I wonder if I could do that on a fashion illustration or something like that. So Pinterest is huge. I have a whole library of art books, and sometimes I'll just pull one out that I haven't looked at in a while and flick through and be like, oh, I want to try that and that and that and that. So yeah, kind of from a bit of everywhere.
Do you keep an inspiration journal or a notebook to keep track of all these ideas that you have, or do you just keep them in your head?
I used to actually cut things out and print things out and like stick them in a book, and then I realized that I never really went back and looked at the book. So then I just started a series of Pinterest boards. So I do everything digitally now because I can take a picture and upload it on my phone really quickly. And, I have some secret boards that are just like things for me to think about. And then I've got lots and lots and lots of public boards as well, from fashion illustration to whole boards just on different color schemes. And every now and again, I'll go and I'll flick back through there. But really, it's just to keep my brain free. Even if I don't ever look at those boards again, if I've had the idea and I don't capture it somewhere, it'll bug me.
Wait a minute, you froze. Go back.
Oh, yeah. So even if I don't look at any of those Pinterest boards ever again, if I have that idea or that bit of inspiration and I don't capture it somewhere, it'll just bug me and just like eat away at me. So I have to put it somewhere. And Pinterest is great for that.
So how often do you go back and take a look at those old boards?
Not very often. unless I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a particular type of drawing, and I'll think, oh, I'm sure I pinned some stuff that was relevant to that, and then I'll go back and I'll look for it. But I don't often go back and browse because there's just still so much other stuff coming in. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I somehow ended up with two boards or two accounts, and they both have like 30,000 plus pins. It's just ridiculous. So we all have, things that block us to get in our way, whether it's lack of motivation or focus, or we procrastinate on a project. Perfectionism is one that tends to get in a lot of our ways. I know that these are all different things and different aspects of being an artist, and they probably all have different ways of dealing with them. But what are the top ones that bother you that you have maybe some tips and tricks that you could tell us how you deal with them?
Let's see. Procrastination. Oh, am I frozen?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Procrastination has always been an issue for me. um, the only thing that I've found recently that helps me a little bit with that is I keep a bullet journal. And so that's my tasks every day that I want to get through. And I'm trying to learn to be more realistic because I call myself a time optimist, where I assume that I can get 100 things done in like 20 minutes. And I'm having to learn to be more realistic with scheduling my time and allowing for other things that will naturally crop up. But I used to always have everything electronic. I wanted to do everything digital and have all my calendars and reminders and everything. But I have found that keeping an actual hardcover book is working a lot better for me. And anything that didn't get done the day before, I have to either say I'm not going to do it, or I have to schedule it for a different day. So I don't get these accumulating gigantic lists of things to do, which used to overwhelm me. It's everything has to have a day and a time to be done, or else I have to decide it's not important enough and get rid of it.
That is a perfect tip. And I'm actually going to have to talk to you about that after this interview because I need help with that one. I schedule my list, and my list grows and grows and grows because stuff that I didn't do yesterday ends up on there. And I didn't even, don't know why it didn't dawn on me that I can eliminate some of that stuff. Doesn't have to happen. So yeah, I have a question. When did you decide you wanted to start sharing your work with the world? Getting your stuff out there. Were you nervous? Were you excited? How was that for you?
After I took my first in-person art class, I found an online art class that I wanted to join, and part of it, because the students were spread out all over the world, most of them were in the US, I was still in Australia, we had to start a blog so that we could share our weekly assignments with the rest of the class. So that was my first blog that I started. And I guess I was a little nervous sharing my work because, well, I don't know if anyone ever feels like their work is perfect and amazing and they know exactly what they're doing. I feel like everybody's always learning. But especially in the early days, if I showed you some of that work, you'd be like, did a blind monkey draw this? Like, what is this? So I was a little bit nervous, but at the same time, I think I had like 2 or 3 blog readers. So it wasn't a huge risk. It wasn't like I was putting myself out there to millions of people. So I say just do it. I mean, I put work out there now that is much less than finished or that I'm really not happy with, but I do it anyway because I'm kind of journaling my own progress.
Kind of like those baby steps, those little confidence boosters. Each time you put something out there, you may start out with only 2 or 3 people seeing it. You get a little bit of positive response. You show it, it ends up, 10, 15 people, then 20, 30, then, you can build up. And as you're progressing and as your work is getting better, you're getting more people seeing your work. It's a lot easier than throwing it out there to tens of thousands of people and getting obviously that many people. You're going to get a lot of negative reviews because there's always 1 in 10, always at least 1 in 10. So you got to remember those numbers and think, you know what, there's going to be somebody out there that doesn't like your work, and that's perfectly fine. What kind of advice would you give someone who doesn't feel that they're creative, and also someone who's, trying to bring creativity back in their life after, it not being a part of their life?
Look, everybody's creative. I absolutely believe that. It took me a really long time to realize it. But if I can encourage even just one other person on the planet to realize it a little quicker than me, perhaps, then, I've done my job. Creativity doesn't have to be visual arts. It can be music. It can be cooking, photography, the way you decorate your house. Like, I guess that's still kind of a visual art, but there's so many ways to be creative, that I say, whatever works for you, go with that. And I think it's absolutely something that you can practice. The more you think in a creative way, the easier it comes. So you have to make a start somewhere. And, it's like any skill, you just have to work at it.
I feel people forget that. They forget that this is something that you have to practice, just like a sports athlete has to practice bouncing the ball and being able to make it into the net. As an artist or creative, you have to practice. You have to hone your skills, just like everybody else does.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts and your ideas of creatives as productive members of society? There's such a I believe there's still stigmatism about, creatives are not the way to go if you want to make good money. Now, I understand we don't make tons of money, but creating a living as an artist, what are your thoughts on that?
I think I might have a slightly different kind of philosophy to most artists, or at least the people that I've discussed this particular topic with. I think that a lot more artists have a side gig than they let on. And I think that doesn't make you any less of an artist, which is kind of what people make you feel like. If you can't support yourself full time, then you're not a real artist. I don't believe that at all. I think if you can take the pressure off of your art a little bit by doing something else and not make it have to pay for your whole lifestyle, you'll enjoy it a lot more, and it won't become a chore. And sort of, I don't know, I used to think that I wanted to be a professional photographer, and then when I started doing it and getting more and more gigs and being told what to do and how to photograph things, I suddenly hated it and I didn't want to do it anymore. But if I had been doing it for the love of it and I didn't need to do it for the money, it would have been a very different experience. I think you can absolutely make a living from being an artist. I think very few people, though, can make a living just from selling original art. I think you really have to diversify. Maybe you're selling prints and other goods. You might be going to markets. You might be selling online. You might take commissions. You might license your work through third-party companies. You might teach. I think you need to have a lot of different revenue streams because, at least in my experience, no one stream is profitable enough to support everything that you want to do. But maybe that's just my lifestyle. I could probably pare back a little.
I think I agree. And there are a lot of books out there on having multiple streams of income. And why would we not want to do the same thing with our art as other people are doing with, they have a job, they're in real estate, they're, excuse me, they're diversifying their portfolios. We're doing the same thing. We're not selling out. We're being artists. We're being, smart artists because we are diversifying our portfolios. We're putting things into different baskets instead of expecting everything to come from one source. It doesn't happen that way.
Mm-hmm.
Until you die, then you could be Van Gogh,
No.
I don't think we want to do that. So what kind of a legacy do you want to leave the world? I know I've asked you and kind of give me a different kind of answer, and I liked it. So what kind of a legacy do you want to leave the world?
Look, I want to encourage other people to explore their own creativity, and if I can encourage one other person to start drawing or painting, I'll be really happy, because I'm kind of annoyed that it took me until my 30s to really start to experiment with art, and it's brought me so much joy and I love it so much that I wish I'd started it sooner. I wouldn't have been such a high-strung 20-something if I'd had art to calm me down a little bit. And I want other people to experience the same joy and fun that it's brought me.
I so completely agree. That's why my main hashtag is Calm Art Crazy, because art does that. It centers us. It's our meditation. It's our way to get the craziness that's in our heads out and allow us some peace of mind. So I would love you to show us some of your work, some stuff from earlier work, and then some work that you're doing now, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I don't have any of my earlier work. It's all floating out there on the interwebs somewhere. But yeah, moving countries, I didn't bring a lot of stuff with us. So I really only have things I've created in the last couple of years. But to give you an idea of some of my bright colored watercolor style, this is a world map. I love maps. I love to travel. So I do quite a bit of travel stuff. And of course, I also do sort of fashion illustration and accessories, things like that. And then I thought I'd give you a quick peek into my latest sketchbook, because I always love seeing like behind the scenes into other people's sketchbooks. So I thought you might enjoy that too. Let's see. So for Inktober this year, I did everything in ink, and I did all fashion illustrations with different prompts. So it was ankle boots through to scarves and handbags. Let's see. Patterned jackets, overalls, sunglasses, little bunny blouses, pink suede hats.
I love how you did the colors on her hair.
Oh, thank you.
You did like the three tones in her hair. That is so cool.
Ballet flats, and yeah, just a few little things. I was trying to do one every day where I could, which was a challenge on some days, but it really pushed me to try a few different things and a couple of different styles. And especially using ink when I use watercolor more often was really fun.
So back up a second.
Yeah.
Go back. So the yellow on that the jacket that's coming out, that's not watercolor, that's ink?
That's ink.
Oh.
I have these little bottles of the pH, like Doc PH Martin's ink, and I just use it with a paintbrush. I just dip it in there and I paint it on kind of like watercolor. It just dries a lot faster, and some of them are kind of shiny, and I sort of like the texture. And some of these ones that kind of look more like watercolor, I either watered the ink down or I actually put a little bit of it on like a plastic sheet and sort of mixed it and then used it like watercolor. And I think that's it for Inktober. And then I started moving into some Denver Fashion Week stuff.
These are so cool.
That's it in this sketchbook.
Those are amazing. I see, and that's how when it comes to realistic painting, I would have to practice a lot to be able to do it. It's not something that speaks to me, so I tend to avoid it like the plague. But those are absolutely gorgeous. I mean, bodies and figures are not an easy thing to get a hang on. It's very difficult. So last thing I want to talk to you about is you are also a social media and marketing guru for artists, which I love because we need that. Most of us, including myself, don't know about that stuff. Tell us more about that. I want to be able to, I'm going to include the information for you at the bottom of the interview on the YouTube channel so people can contact you, but I'd like you to be able to explain, what you do, how people can contact you, and how you can help the creatives that you help.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been doing marketing and marketing for a lot longer, social media for as long as it's been around, for big sort of billion-dollar global companies right through to individuals and startups for going on 16 and a bit years now. So I've been doing it for a while. And earlier this year, I decided that, the corporate world wasn't for me right now. I needed a break. I'm having a baby soon. and I wanted to start working for myself. And, I have so many artist friends online who are just supremely talented and amazing, but they're not doing themselves any favors in their branding and their online marketing and social media. So I thought, well, hang on, I do this for a living. I can help these people. So I started trying to work more with artists and creatives, and I still have a few tech clients and 3D printers and some other companies that I'm working with, but I'm getting more and more individuals who are artists and creatives, and that they might be florists, they might be fine artists, illustrators, anybody visually creative. I love working with and watching them grow their brand and seeing more success.
That actually brings me to another question that I didn't think about before. Have you noticed a difference in the type of people that you're helping with that are more techie, like you said, the 3D printers or the techie people than the creatives, the artists? Do they have, for me, I can imagine we have different ways of thinking. Is that accurate? I mean, do you find that they think differently, and so explaining what they want is a little bit more, I mean, do you understand what they're trying to explain to you more because you're creative, or is it more of a challenge?
So yes, I think the different groups think very differently, but even more than that, the audiences that follow them are so different. I mean, with 3D printing, you've got your cosplay and your hardcore engineering nerds, and they're printing Star Wars stuff and gadgets, and it's the content that they want to see and what they are looking for on social media is so different to what an artist's fan base is looking for. Not just the different types of content, but the interaction that they want to have and the sorts of questions that they want answered and how they want to engage is very, very different. It's not too much of a stretch for me because I am a very techie person. I worked in sort of defense and mechanical industries for a really long time. So I worked with a lot of engineers and, and people of that ilk that are very, very different to the creative mindset and those sorts of people. But I also have that side of me that is, artistic and creative. And so I think I'm able to bridge those two worlds fairly well.
That's pretty amazing because it is kind of difficult. I know for myself, being artistic and creative and, creating and even coming up with ideas is an amazing, I have no problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
The business side is what I struggle with, building a constructive, I mean, I'm playing around with my website all the time, changing stuff, and knowing that, okay, there's something I could do better, but that's not my strong suit. I'd rather be painting. I would rather be, doing this kind of, creative stuff. And I think someone who can bridge that gap between the business and the tech and the creativity, the art part of it, is someone that we need more of in our creative lives. As artists, we're usually pretty great at this stuff and basically sucky at the other stuff. So having somebody who can bridge that is absolutely perfect. That's wonderful. I'm glad that you do that. So
yeah, you're not alone at all. I think that probably 99% of creatives feel the way you do, easily. So.
Oh, good. So now we know who to get in touch with. Now, if you're creative and your business is absolutely amazing as far as creativity, but your business is not so creative, not so good with social media and marketing, Jess is your gal. Okay, so you need to get with her, work with her. She's absolutely awesome. Jessica, thank you so much for redoing this video. We had technical issues, last time. I really appreciate you taking the time and doing this with me. This has been so much fun. This is all going to be on Periscope, on my Periscope channel for 24 hours. And then it's going to be on my YouTube channel at a couple adventures. So if you want to come visit us, it's also going to be on Jessica's website. So you guys can come and check us out. Thank you again, Jess. I really appreciate it. Thank you. My heart is
it's been my
bursting.
pleasure. It's been fantastic. And thank you so much for asking. me to chat with you today.
Oh, of course. Thank you.